What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the King and I Life podcast. It's your man, Soul Toucha the Poet, and I have a guest with me today. Announce yourself, please.
My name is Cynthia Sargent.
Yes, and we're going to get into a, light discussion here. We don't know where it's going to go, but she has a story to tell, and we're going to let her tell her story. And this is going to be an intro to her starting off her own podcast. So, without further ado, before I get started with that, you can reach us at www.kingandilife.com. You can find all our podcast information on there. Make sure you go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe to our Unchained episodes. But in the meantime, Cynthia, how are you feeling today, my sister?
Hey, every day is a blessed day.
I hear
Open
that.
your eyes, that's the blessing.
Yes, indeed. So, before we start the discussion, we had a conversation over the weekend, and we just the conversation. I was like, you should do a podcast, and you was like, what? A podcast? A podcast? I don't know what I'm doing. And I would just like, hey, you just get on there and you talk. So let's tell the people a little bit of your background, where you from, where you grew up and stuff like that.
Okay, I was born in Harlem, New York. I was raised in Brooklyn. And now I'm in Maryland. Big distance.
Yeah. Like me, I'm from up there, been around the world, and landed here in 95 and been here ever since. It's pretty easy living compared to up there.
Oh, most definitely. I retired, so I couldn't afford it no more. I'm telling you.
And I'm not retired. And I said I would never, ever live up there on my... not as an adult. It's too expensive up there.
Hey.
So what we're going to do is we're going to tell your story because, you got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things on your mind that you want to get off your chest, you want to express the world, you want to motivate people, and, let people know that regardless of what life throws at you, the greatest thing that you can do for yourself is keep your head up and keep moving forward.
Most definitely. Well, shall I begin in the beginning where my aunt got diagnosed with cancer in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
I took care of her for 10 years until she passed away in 2007. I learned a lot about the do's and don'ts.
Right.
And then in 2008, I decided to check on my body, and I was discovered that I had cancer.
Mm. So before you get into your discovery of cancer, when you were taking care of your aunt, how did that affect you emotionally, mentally, physically, and what did it make you think overall when it came to cancer?
Well, thank God I had medical background, so I had the do's and don'ts. So it did affect me knowing that watching her fall by the wayside between the different treatments, the radiation, and I knew the do's and don'ts to do to help her to overcome that radiation.
Right.
And when it came to the chemo, I had the do's and don'ts because it wasn't one time that she had it, but she had it several times.
Oh, wow.
At least 3 times.
Okay.
So each time I was able to learn more and more of what I need to do to keep her going and stuff like that. And then it finally came a time when she was diagnosed again. She just looked at me and said, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And I said, I'm leaving it up to you. You're a grown woman. She said, Cynthia, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the doctor, I said, you heard what my aunt said. And my family wasn't pleased. They felt I should have pushed her.
Right.
But they weren't there when she was doing the radiations.
Exactly.
And chemo.
Right.
They'll call and check on her, but physically,
Right. Yeah, that's I've never experienced that type of situation with anyone close to me, but I know people who have, and I can understand that it's hard, and people try to guilt you for your decisions that you make on behalf of that person, but being that you're the one there, you pretty much know what they want because either they communicated with you what they want, or because you were there, you understand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I left it in her hands because I'm not going through it, and neither is anybody else going through those treatments.
Right.
She's in her 80s. Her body's breaking down more and more. She didn't want to go through it anymore, and I can respect that.
Right. Yeah.
That's her decision.
That's the best thing you do is respect that. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of us struggle with as people, because I look at it as our selfishness is is what we place on that person. We don't want to let go, but we're not the ones in that pain.
Most definitely.
We may feel guilty for, missing time with that person, or stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's not us that's dealing with that pain. So it's like we can't make that decision for them. And we can't fault the people who are in a place to make those decisions for that person.
Well, I didn't make the decision. I left it up to her because it's her body and her mind. And only her could speak on what she felt like. And she said she was tired of all of that. So I left it on her.
Right.
It wasn't like she had a mental problem and she couldn't think because she still thought.
Right.
So she was able to make her own decision. And I just went with her.
Right. So after that, and then we'll move into your situation, your experience with your own cancer. After that, how long did it take for you to heal, so to speak, emotionally, or come to terms with that situation?
Well, it took me quite a few months because my family was looking at me. Well, why didn't you push her? And I'm like, I couldn't. I watched her with radiation. I watched her. She didn't want to eat. She didn't have chemo. She didn't want to eat food. She has no taste. And it's hard when you're trying to feed a person something they don't want to eat.
Right.
And basically, I had to tell them, get over it. I mean, that's not trying to be hard. I was
Right.
being real.
Yeah.
Because I saw how her body broke down, and we tried to nourish her body back up
Mm-hmm.
so she could survive all that time. And when they said again that the last time, she was like, this is it.
Mm.
She gave up.
Right. Right.
She didn't want to put herself through that radiation and chemo, and I could understand that because
Yeah.
she was drained.
Yeah.
And then as an older black woman, they're very independent.
Yeah.
And once they fall, even though they raise their kids and their nieces and nephews, when it comes time that they have to depend on them, it's like something being taken out
Right.
of their
Yes.
independence.
Yes.
And that was what her problem with
Right.
me.
Yeah. I can understand that. Totally understand that. So with that being said, you said you had a diagnosis in 2008.
Yeah, I made a thing for New Year's Eve that I was going to go check my own body out.
Right.
And that was in New Year's Eve. That February I went because I've been working in the hospital and I knew the doctors because I had picked my OR team for my aunt to do surgery. So I knew everybody. I worked with them for years.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went and they just did a biopsy and said, yes, you have a stage 4 cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't cancer in my breast. It was behind my breast.
Oh, wow.
And they couldn't understand how I said it was just something I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the surgery in February 2008. I did 6 months of radiation, 5 days a week, 15 minutes a day.
You said 50 or 15?
15 minutes
Okay.
a day, just zapping me every day. And I did chemo for a year and a half, once a month for 4 hours.
I heard that's painful.
It's not painful, it's a drainage.
Yeah, draining.
You can't function, you can't, nothing. The radiation zaps you, makes you very tired, and the chemo doesn't help. even though it's killing the cells.
Right.
It's also killing your white blood count, your red blood count. So you every time you do a chemo treatment, you have to they have to do blood work just to make sure that your count, because of the chemo, it's not dropping.
Right.
Where you wind up in the hospital again, which quite a few people that came in with me and we did the chemo together, a lot of them wind up going back in the hospital again, spending months.
Wow. Okay. So after that, how long did you have to do that in 2008? You say?
I did the radiation 6 months.
Okay.
And then in January of 2009, I went back to work.
Okay. So was it in remission? Were you cured, healed, or anything like that?
Well, they had me still doing chemo.
Okay.
Even when I went back in January, but I talked to my boss and said, look, I have to still do chemo. Is it okay I come back to work? So they made arrangements with me because I'm a good worker and
Right.
they enjoyed me. They worked with me that on Fridays I could do my chemo and have the rest of the weekend for myself to retaliate to be back on Monday.
I mean, it's a good thing that you have that support system, and they respected you, your work ethic, and everything like that. They enjoyed you as a person to allow you to come back to work. Because again, I've never the worst thing that I've had to deal with, health wise, was a torn Achilles tendon, and I was at the point where I was like, I can't sit at home. This is driving me crazy.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine what you would be going through if you had to sit at home with cancer. So, I mean, they let me come to work. I was on light duty, had a wheelchair, and I worked in a warehouse, mind you. So, I mean, that is definitely good to have that type of support system to where that you could still feel alive, even though you're struggling. So after that went on, what was next? What was next for you health wise?
Health-wise, it was basically just dealing with not only the chemo. Well, the radiation ended like in December of 2008.
Okay.
But I still was taking chemo for the rest of the year of 2009. And not only was I taking chemo IVs, I was taking chemo pills.
Wow.
And I had to take that for 5 years straight.
So was that to keep the cancer down, or
Trying to see if they can kill as much cells as possible
okay?
without doing harm to my body anymore with the chemo. They prefer the pill. It's a lower dosage and stuff with the pills. Well, the first 6 months I was drained. I was hurting. I wanted to go back, and they was like, no, because you're doing chemo, we can't allow you because you're in a hospital facilities. And that would make you susceptible to have a relapse,
Right.
health-wise, because your system is broke down from the chemo. So they advise you not to go into infectious environment.
Okay.
But I was determined I wasn't going to let this beat me.
Okay. Wow. So you did that for 5 years. Did you have to? Was there any bigger struggles during that 5 years? Like, did you have to have any more surgeries or anything like that?
Oh, of course. I've had to, well, during the time of the chemo, they had to put a port in my chest because you can't, when you do IVs every month, they have to inject your thing. So they found the ports are better in your chest so they can be just stick the needle in there and run the fluid.
Okay.
And after the chemo was finished, then they took the port out. It was a lot of different changes. A lot of people were upset with me because I was always getting Friday off. I mean, the coworkers were getting, a lot of them was like, oh, I want Friday off. And then my supervisor would say something like, well, Cynthia has to do her chemo, so we're
Right.
giving her Friday. And a lot of them, she always getting Friday off. And they thought I was still lying because they couldn't believe that I was at work and still doing chemo. But I would bring my supervisor verification that I was still doing chemo.
Right. And it was none of their business anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
It's a trip.
Man. So, after that time period, Uh, did your health improve?
Oh yes, I found out while I was doing the chemo and stuff. My one of my doctors that I worked with, he said, take vitamins.
Mhm.
Don't take a multivitamin because it's not enough milligram.
Right.
So I started taking vitamin E, vitamin C, fish oils, garlic, geritol,
Oh wow.
calcium, potassium.
Wow.
I take at least 8, and I've been doing that for 13 years because I've been cured for 13 years,
Okay. Okay.
and it helps my body out.
Right. Okay. So now you said you've been cured for 13 years.
Yes.
What has your challenge been with cancer since then?
Well, I discovered a lump last year during the COVID, and unfortunately, I couldn't go see my doctor to check it out.
Hmm.
And now that I'm in Maryland, I had to find a whole new system, a whole new doctors, a whole new team of everybody.
Right.
And it was kind of scary.
Hmm.
But when I did find the proper team to do the surgery, they were very surprised that I had discovered a small lump.
Mm.
And I says, I've always checked my breast since I've had the cancer.
And that's important because I don't want to just limit it to black people. I don't want to limit it to just black men. But I think people in general do not care, do not think to check themselves. They're not aware of their overall health. They don't know their balance. And when something is off, they take it lightly. So it's sometimes you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, hey, this is X, Y, and Z is wrong with me. They looking at you like, what are you talking about? And it's like, I pay attention to my body, so I know
That's what you
I know
have to
I
do.
know I'm off.
If you don't pay attention to your body, yeah, people look in the mirror, but what are they looking in the mirror for?
Right.
Are
Yeah.
they looking to see how good they are?
Yeah.
Or what might be a discoloration or it could be anything on your body if you're not paying attention
Right.
to it. You're just trying to look good.
Yeah.
So how many people nowadays do take the time to look at their whole entire body to check it out?
They don't. When I was doing security, it was I would have to get like 4 physicals a year. I would have to get 2 for security, 1 for the military, and 1 that I did with my regular doctor. I want to say back in 2011, 2012, around that time frame, I found a lump on my testicles. I was scared. You know, I go to my doctor and find out that it's a cyst.
Yeah,
They removed it. It was nothing serious. But for a long time, I had to get an ultrasound on my testicles because they said I had crystallization down there, whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, shit. I'm gonna make sure I do that every year. You know, I'm gonna make sure I continue to check myself every year because, for me, I fear something happening to me, especially if I could have prevented it, or I wasn't aware of it because of my own just not following up on my health.
Well, can I say something? Being that I'm on a medical team in the surgical field.
Mm-hmm.
Men do not like having their bodies checked.
They don't.
A woman will go faster than a man. And the only reason I can say that, I worked in the OR for 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very surprised of the surgeries that I did on men, and I couldn't understand why they waited too long to even go to a doctor to check their body out until it was too much that it might
Right.
create more of a problem for you.
Right. Yeah. And that is true. A lot of men is, and because I'm a black man, I know a lot of black men who refuse to do a lot of things when it comes to their health if they're not in a specific field. Like for me, when I was in security, you had to go get a physical.
Yes.
Because if you did not, you're losing your job. In the Army, you have to get a physical. If you do not, you're getting disciplined. But there's a lot of men out there who, have a, stub their toe or something and have all kind of issues. But if you don't get check that out and you got other things going on, you never know. You might be diabetic, and
Exactly.
you got all this other stuff going on. You might have gout. You might have this. You might have that. And you might knock it off as, oh, I just got a cramp or this, that, and the other. And it's like, nah, you can't do that. This is your life. And the biggest thing when I look at it, the biggest thing I look at it is I don't only have to think about me. I have to think about the people who care about me.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, you have to think about the people who care about you. And that's just what it is. You can say, oh, it's my life, it's my body. I could do this, I could do that. Fine. Understandable. But what about those people around you? And when you was talking about your aunt, and how family members was upset, mad, this, that, and the other, we don't know why they were mad. We know. Well, you said why they were upset and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when something hits you and you don't know about it, it's one thing. But if something hits you and you could have had some type of awareness, it's different.
True. But I have to ask you this. Excuse me for cutting you off. In the surgeries I did, I cannot understand why man will not go and check their prostate. You know how many prostate surgeries I've done on men?
I can definitely answer that. I can definitely answer that. It's a pride thing, one.
Okay.
It's I'm invincible, two. And three, it's the ignorance of I don't want nobody playing with my ass.
I feel you.
And I can honestly say, me being sexually molested as a child, I can partly understand some of them, but a lot of them have not been molested. They're going on this notion, I don't want nobody playing with my ass. And it's like, why even look at it like that? Look at it as I'm having my prostate checked so that my doctor can tell me if something is wrong with me or not.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of men have prostate check. And the question I always ask, why do they wait to the last minute when they have to have surgery? And after you have your surgery, you cannot fulfill.
Right.
Not unless you get, which we always do too, penile implants.
Right. But yeah.
I'm just saying.
But it goes back to, those reasons I mentioned. I mean,
I feel you.
They have other reasons, but at the end of the day, it's like, stop looking at it as somebody playing in your ass.
True.
Stop looking at it as, I hear the responses and it's mind blowing because it's like, you might have a pain in your abdomen area, whatever the case may be, and you blow it off for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Hey, you might blow it off for 2 weeks. And then you be like, you know what? All right, the hell with it. I need to go to the doctor. And when you go to the doctor, it really, sometimes it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to go to the doctor.
Exactly.
Because you just don't know how bad it is or it possibly could be. Them 2 weeks may be critical to your life. But your mindset was, I don't want nobody playing in my ass. And it's like, you got to get over that. Like, yes. Be a man and be like, I'm going to take care of myself because, hey, I might have a wife. I might have kids. I might have this. I might have that. And, they may think it's hard to get a prostate exam, but it could be even harder to sit your wife and kids down and say, hey, I got prostate cancer.
Yes. And that's where I always tell a lot of men, and everybody I talk to as far as men is concerned, yo, check your prostate. Oh, well, they say you should be 45. No. Age is just a number. It is no, okay, I'm telling you.
Let me tell you, I had prostate exams a long time ago. And I want to say like maybe 2 years ago, or maybe even a year ago, or whatever it was. I told my doctor I want to get a colonoscopy or a prostate exam, whatever it was. Oh, you're too young. Too young?
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. So I just went to the doctor last week because I was having knee and back pain, and lo and behold, have you ever thought about getting a colonoscopy or blah blah blah? I'm like, yeah. Well, you're at this age and they recommended at 45, and I'm like, shit, I'm 48. I wanted this a long time ago.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. See, age is just a number. It doesn't have any. The disease can hit anybody at any age, you know. And they always keep stressing it. Oh, 45. No.
Mm-mm.
If your body is breaking, it's gonna break.
It's gonna break. It's gonna break.
Yeah.
Like, I've been having knee pains for more than 10 years. You're not going to tell me, oh, you got to wait till you 50 years old to have arthritis and this, that. And you're not going to tell me that. Like, if my body is hurting, I'm going to get it checked out. Or I'm going to see my doctor regularly to prevent or be aware at the very least.
True.
Yeah, so
I mean, I still am set in my ways because I'm old.
Right.
But I have to thank the medical field because I learned a lot about the body from the tip of my head to the bottom of my feet.
Right.
And all the surgeries that I was involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So it just let me know. And I questioned the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I was in a training facility. So I always questioned them when I did surgery with them.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Why are you not doing that?
Right.
You know, and they were teaching me. So, like I said, I have 35 years of experience in medicals, plus military of 17. So I know a lot. I don't have a license, but I'd give it advice for somebody to help out.
Right, but you know, you got the information, you got the knowledge, you know your way around, and stuff like that. And I think that's important. Not only that you are in the medical field, but that you ask questions. And, you know, people who are not in the medical field or who are a little hesitant or scared or whatever to ask their doctor those questions, it's important to ask questions. Even if you're just asking just to ask. Like, you may be asking, you know, shyly asking just to get a response. You know, you might ask a unrelated medical question just to get an answer, but as long as you're asking questions, it's like the first step to taking care of other things that may come up or that you may experience with somebody else. It's not useless knowledge.
It's so true. It's so true. I think everybody should, you know, they wait until they get in pain but if you learn about your body, the goods and things and not, you can detect when something is wrong.
Right, yeah.
Ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you used to your body, you know? And that's what people don't take the time to do until they get into pain or whatever, and then I gotta go to the doctor.
Right, right. And then when you get to the doctor, it's like, oh, man, I got to do all this. I got to do all that.
And then they give you meds, and the meds ain't helping. It might help one thing and tear up another thing.
Yeah, and I tell you, the one thing I do not like doing is taking meds. So whatever I can do to prevent from taking meds, I am going to do it. I tell you that.
I feel you.
Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, it is the King and I Life podcast. It's your man, Soul Toucha the Poet, and my guest, Cynthia in the house. It's the first of many conversations, so stay tuned because she got a story to tell, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. She got a lot of motivation to give out there and a lot of determination. So stay tuned for that motivation, determination. Cynthia, you got anything else you want to say to the people before we close out on here?
Every day you open your eyes, that's your blessing right there, because it could be worse.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Again, follow us at www.kingandilife.com. That's our website. You can find a whole bunch of info on there. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can hit the tab. If you want to leave voice messages, it's a space for that. You can find the videos of our live podcast and also our audio episodes. So definitely stay tuned, and we will be with you on another time. We out.
Peace.